Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Sirhan on X, live from Cincinnati, Ohio, here in the United States. Hope everyone out there has themselves a wonderful 14th of November of the calendar year 2024. Dreary day here in Cincinnati, nothing much to do because it rained on and off starting from last night until today. It's supposed to be cleared up by the end of the night, but it don't matter because I got to work the next 3 days. So, thought I'd just sit in here for today and nothing much going on. Shout out to everyone out there. Hope everyone has themselves a wonderful day today. Uh, New to this scene here. Shout out to all my followers over on Rumble who saw my show the other night. I'll be going full time on that platform here after the weekend. Uh, Still trying to work out some kinks here with this because some of these platforms don't like to work themselves out. So I'm sort of still new to this. But it is what it is. I'll just get right down to it here real quick. Tonight begins week 10 of the NFL season. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to go through the entire schedule because we're now approaching the games that matter most in the playoffs, and there's 6 games that's preferably worth talking about because those are the real quote pick'em games end quote. We start with tonight's game. It is the Washington Commanders against the Philadelphia Eagles. Probably the two best quarterbacks in the NFC right now, and Jaden Daniels of Washington and Jalen Hurts of Philadelphia. Hurts has sort of rebounded nicely after a bit of a sluggish start because at one point he led the league in turnovers. I don't pay attention to stat sheets, so I don't know if he still does or not. Going against Washington and Jaden Daniels. This is probably right now pretty much a lock for the rookie of the year unless something unforeseen and off the chains happens, which I don't think it will. It's going to this game, things will come down to which defense can stop the other. Philly's defense has started to play significantly better in recent weeks. I mean, a few weeks ago, they stopped an explosive Cincinnati offense. They beat, of course, they beat Dallas last week. And it's to be trending a little bit in the right direction. Washington played good, but not great, even though they had a chance to beat Pittsburgh on Sunday. But I think this game is going to basically come down to the quick turnaround schedule and whichever quarterback plays the best. I think this is still going to. I still have questions about Washington's secondary. Marcus Lattimore is not playing tonight. So for this one, I am going to take Philadelphia at home. I think this one will be close and competitive, can go either way. Wouldn't surprise me if Washington won because Washington has basically put the world on notice this season, especially Jaden Daniels, who I said was the most ready quarterback coming out of the 2024 NFL draft over everyone that includes guys like Caleb Williams and Drake May. But for this one, give me Philly at home because I think if Washington, because they know for them to win the NFC East, they need this one because if Washington wins, even though it would be essentially a 3-game lead because it would be 2 plus the head-to-head tiebreaker tonight. So give me Philly at home, knowing the situation at hand when it comes to the NFC East title. Now we're going to the Sunday games, the big ones, because I'm not going to talk about all of them. A lot of them, big stuff, of course, with teams eliminated, it's not worth my time. The big one, of course, is the historic rivalry that is always a slobber knocker when we talk about old school AFC North battles. Of course, it's a Lou because, of course, HBO has their Hard Knocks in season on the AFC North coming up. It fits right into what's coming up Sunday. Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Just latest news came out that Jalen Warren popped up on the injury report and didn't practice, so we'll see where that goes. It'll be a bit of a size. I don't want to say a sizable loss, but it will be a loss for Pittsburgh if he can't play because they will need him to do something to balance it, keep that Ravens defense honest. But right now, you can't find two more hotter quarterbacks right now than Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson. Lamar Jackson probably going to win his 3rd MVP at this rate. Russell Wilson has had a renaissance since he came back and Mike Tomlin inserted him in the starting lineup. And the Steelers' offense has been totally different. The defense, of course, is the defensive front led by T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward. Of course, there's Alex Highsmith. Don't know if he's playing or not. They say he'll be out. He may be out a week or two. But they did get Preston Smith for that defensive front. Of course, you have Russell Wilson going against a Baltimore defense who's just surprisingly 32nd in the league when I last checked, which is sort of uncharacteristic when you consider the personnel they have back there. The year Marlon Humphreys had a bit of a solid bounce back year. You have, of course, Kyle Hamilton, who hurt his ankle the last Thursday night against Cincinnati, but apparently he practiced. He's going to play. Never thought this game would come down to whose offense will put up the more points, because that's what I think is going to come down to. But I think Pittsburgh's defense at home is going to do enough to slow down Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And given they have the momentum, given the way they're playing as of late, I'm going to tip the nod to Pittsburgh at home. I think the defense will do enough to slow down this Baltimore offense, which is can be explosive at any given time. When you think of the personnel, the schemes they run with Todd Monken as their offensive coordinator. But I think I think Pittsburgh at home gets the job done. I say it's going to be about a 4-point difference, and they're different. It's going to come down to a defensive standard. I think Pittsburgh makes a stop at home, and they get the W. But as I said, if Pittsburgh manages to win the AFC North, which they might, if they win, they control it. Hand my time on the coach of the year, because I don't think anyone foresaw this coming. Another early, game we're talking about, it is Seattle at San Francisco. Seattle vying for one of the playoffs, vying for an NFC playoff spot against San Francisco, who just got Christian McCaffrey back. I wasn't thrilled with how San Fran beat Tampa Bay, but they did get McCaffrey back. But I'll just say this. Brock Purdy showed if he needed to win a game, he could do it. He passed for over 350 yards, got the job done. Of course, Ayuk out for the year. They still have Kittle and Samuel. The defense played much better last Sunday, despite Nick Bosa being unable to sack Baker Mayfield on a 4th down play where Mayfield just hit a crazy play on him. This being in San Francisco, I'm going to probably get the nod to San Francisco. The divisional game, San Fran trying to stay pace with Arizona for the NFC West title. I never thought I'd say that. Seattle just trying to hang in there in the NFC wild card. They've been very inconsistent this season. Started out real well, but have been very, very wavy. Basically lost at home to San Fran when San Fran just beat the brakes off of them, only to go to Atlanta the next week and beat the brakes off of them. And they're coming off a recent loss against Detroit. They're very inconsistent right now. But same with San Francisco. But of these two, give me San Fran at home. I just think they take care of business. They're trying to catch Arizona for the NFC East title. I think they stay pace with this one. The real big game is, of course, in Buffalo. Kansas at Buffalo. We see, arguably the best quarterback rivalry in the NFL right now. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Josh Allen's had the regular season success, but of course, Patrick Mahomes has it when it matters. Of course, Deion Dawkins of the Bills came out and said Buffalo is suddenly America's team when they haven't had any kind of success in recent years. I said all along, the last time they were relevant was 2022 when they had the home game against Cincinnati, when they were the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl and got punked on their home field. I'm not giving much credit for their appearance in the 2023 playoff against Kansas because they were gift-wrapped the AFC East title because the AFC just fell apart in their face. This home field, everyone's picking Buffalo for I don't know what reason. Juju Smith-Schuster's coming back, gives him another target. Apparently, Isaiah Pacheco's playing. He's practicing. I don't know if he's playing or not. But now you have Pacheco and Schuster coming back. All of a sudden, the weapons on the offensive side are going to be fine and dandy for the Chiefs. Charles Omenihu, defensive front, is going to provide extra depth when he comes back. Kansas is getting healthy at the right time. I don't know if these guys are playing or not, but I don't think it's going to matter. Kansas is going to make the right plays necessary to steal the win at Buffalo, get the job done. They're going to go to 10-0. It won't be easy because this is Buffalo's Super Bowl, but Kansas City will handle business at home. I think it'll come down to basically the kickers, Harrison Buckner versus Tyler Bass. I think what happened in the playoffs last year showed who you trust more than anything else. Give me Kansas City on the road. Atlanta at Denver. Atlanta trying to hold on to the NFC West title, the NFC South title, excuse me. Denver off that great loss to Kansas City, where basically you want to call it a great loss. I'm not a prognosticator of moral victories because I think it's just dumb. I think Denver handles business at home. Their defense is legit. You see a lot of things. That defense is legit. When you have I think it's Miles Ross and Patrick Surtain in the secondary, that solidifies a lot of things. That defense plays together nicely as a unit, and they did it again against Kansas, and they did all year long because they're in the top in a lot of the major categories. Atlanta's luck out is they're in a division with Carolina, the Saints, and Tampa, and they'll probably win that one by default. But I think when they go to Mile High or whatever the hell they call that stadium now, I think Denver finds a way to get this one at home. They're going to try and hold on for that seventh spot because teams like the Colts and Cincinnati are right on their tail. But I think Denver's defense does the job, holds Atlanta in check, and Denver gets the win at home. As I said, the last playoff spot is more likely going to come down to Week 18 when Denver goes to Cincinnati. Speaking of Cincinnati, they're going to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. We have idiots in Cincinnati again calling this a redemption game from losing Super Bowl 56. First of all, there's no such a thing as a redemption from a Super Bowl. You lost the Super Bowl. You're getting redemption for nothing. I'm not entertaining that discussion. In fact, you guys are entertaining that discussion. It says a lot about you guys again. That's why I stopped talking to you guys a long time ago. And you're not going to beat the Chargers. Better head coach, better quarterback, better running back, and the most important thing, a better defense. That's all that matters for that one. It'll be competitive because I think the quarterback duel is going to be a standout. Joe Burrow versus Justin Herbert. These guys are going to have their moments. But when it comes down to it, Justin Herbert knows how to make the clutch plays. Give me him for this one Sunday night on their home field. They go to 7-3. They're basically knocking on the door and clinching one of the wild card spots. So give me the Chargers at home for that one. And the Monday nighter is Houston at Dallas. Dallas already checked out, but I think Houston uses this game to get themselves back on track. They find a way to get the job done. Better game than people think, but give me Houston on the road. Those are the only games I'm going to touch on in the NFL schedule largely because we're heading to the playoff season, and all that matters right now is playoff positioning in both respective conferences. Pretty much in the AFC, 6 spots I think are pretty much clinched. Whoever wins the AFC South is going to be Houston. Buffalo pretty much has the AFC West wrapped up. You're talking about the AFC North going to send 2 teams at least with Baltimore and Pittsburgh. One's going to win the division. The other's going to wild card because they'll both supersede 11 wins at this rate. Chiefs, the AFC West, Chiefs probably going to win that division. Chargers get the other seed, wild card spot. And the last spot, of course, as I said, is going to come down to Week 18, Denver at Cincinnati, where I think is going to come down to whether or not, Cincinnati can find a way to win at home. They're 1-4 on their home field this season. So they're thinking that's a gimme. It's not. Besides, Cincinnati has a bit of a rough schedule the rest of the way. You talk about having to go to the Chargers, having to play Pittsburgh twice, having to go to playing against teams like Dallas, Tennessee, and Cleveland who are going to play spoilers. And, of course, the Week 18 matchup against Denver. Good luck, Cincinnati, trying to get a playoff spot, especially with that poor of a defense and a quarterback that's basically putting up empty stats right now. I'm not entertaining a discussion of them going to the playoffs. So that takes care of my football talk. I want to make a big shout out to the great Al Michaels. Happy 80th birthday. We have a bunch of idiots out here who have a problem when Al Michaels calls games for the NFL on Amazon Prime for Thursday nights. The problem is never was Al Michaels. It's you guys that have a problem with someone has an opinion on something and you guys can't take it. I said it time and time again. Al Michaels is free to say whatever he wants. And you know what? He basically speaks the mind of everyone who feels the same way about the Thursday night product. Because unless you really like unless you really like Thursday night football, I think we all agree sometimes our product is terrible. Have a quick turnaround. But Al Michaels' legacy, to me, is 3 specific events. Of course, he called a miracle on ice in 1980, with the U.S. won the hockey team coming out of nowhere. He called this closed-circuit version of the greatest round in boxing history, which was the first round of Marvin Hagler and Thomas Hearns. The round is in the compass of a whole fight in 3 minutes, because widely regarded the greatest round maybe in the history of combat sports at all levels. Nothing probably ever top that. If you think something does, get checked for CTE because I don't want to hear from you. And the third one for him is, of course, that famous game in 2000. It was a Monday night game between Minnesota and Green Bay where Antonio Freeman catches a crazy pass out of nowhere where everybody thought it was incomplete. And then Al Michaels screams off the top of his lungs, "He did what?" And if it's on the YouTube, you can see the replay. You can more than likely see it because nobody saw the catch. Because remember, back then there was no instant replay, no review or nothing. When that catch was made, nobody even thought he caught it. Everybody just froze, and then Freeman just catches the ball and takes off for what turned out to be the game-winning touchdown. Al Michaels has called basically every major sporting event you could at all levels. I mean, to me, even at age 80, like him or not, he's still calling NFL games at a very, very high level. I mean, listen, love him or hate him, I mean, he's still doing the job. You guys calling for him to be axed from Amazon Prime or whatever? How about shutting up and watching the game on mute if you don't like the guy? I mean, the guy's been doing this even before I was born. That should tell you something about what Al Michaels has done. I mean, shoot, the guy was calling Cincinnati Reds games from 71 to 74 here in Cincinnati. That should tell you how far back that guy goes. So happy 80th birthday, fellow Cincinnati product, Al Michaels. He has a Cincinnati ties here, quite a lot of them. We all love you, Al Michaels. Keep doing your thing at age 80. And he's still killing it. One topic I just got a chance to see before I came on here. Cam Newton thinks he is being canceled by the Carolina Panthers. The problem is, Cam Newton, you're best remembered for that play in the Super Bowl where you was afraid to go after a loose ball, where you basically fumbled it and basically fumbled the Super Bowl away to the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 50. That's why you're forgotten. That's why you're not being canceled. You basically canceled yourself out on that play on that day. Plain and simple. Broncos has basically punked your ass up, down, left, and right. So that takes care of my NFL talk. Quick talk on the NBA. I don't talk about this much. I just want to give get well wishes to the all-time great San Antonio Spurs coach Greg Popovich. Those who follow the NBA know that Popovich suffered a mild stroke, is expected to be fully recovered. The winningest coach in NBA history from 1997 to 2016, when he had the great Tim Duncan on his roster. The winning percentage was number one in all of sports. I mean, the record speaks for itself. During that time, 5 titles, 6 finals appearances, multiple division titles, 3-time NBA Coach of the Year. You can say a lot about, you can agree or disagree with his political views. You know, I'm not using this platform for it, but I'm using the platform to say get well soon. I mean, you could legitimately say he might have a strong case for the title of greatest coach ever. He is on my coach, if you call it the so-called Mount Rushmore coaches, he's on mine with Red Auerbach, Phil Jackson, and Pat Riley. Add Greg Popovich to it. See what you want about him. I mean, what percentage says for itself. His career resume speaks for itself. Guys in the Hall of Fame, which it should have been long before he did because his legacy was cemented. Of course, we're going to miss the in-between quarter interviews where in the press conferences where he always has something smart aleck to say and will put a laugh on your face. My favorite part about him always has been he can take something so sophisticated to the casual viewer outside that looks so sophisticated, looks so tough on the outside to us. He can take it, break it down, and simplify it in 10 words or less and make you look like an idiot. That's Greg Popovich for you, because he has this great view of a big picture that he sees it, and while he's seeing that view of a big picture, he can pluck the details and sense the details and shoot attention to detail as well as see the big picture, probably better than anyone. And that's why during his tenure in San Antonio, their success was second to none, especially when he had the linchpin of them all, the great Tim Duncan from 1997 to 2016. His winning percentage says it all. So get well soon, Greg Popovich. We all love you. We'll miss you. Will be missed. Get well soon. Godspeed to the great Greg Popovich. Now to some boxing, because I have a lot of fight followers here. No, I'm not going to talk about what's taking place tomorrow night because it is a blasphemical joke. It is not talking about because it's a blasphemical joke. I want to talk about some news that broke out just a minute ago. This is Agit Kayabel basically withdrawing from a title eliminator against Martin Bakole. It's supposed to fight Daniel Dubois for a belt. Not a championship. It's not a championship. It's a belt. The champion is Alexander Usyk. Daniel Dubois has a belt. You guys got to understand the difference. Problem is, a lot of you guys don't. But Agit Kayabel showed the world why he's a coward. You had a chance to fight for a title eliminator against Bakole. The opportunity was there. You back out like a chicken and a coward. Congratulations. I mean, Bakole was going to beat your butt anyway because Bakole is just absolute a monster right now. No one wants to touch him. I get it. But Martin Bakole, Agit Kayabel showed the world why he was a coward. Like just backing out of a deal that basically, I guess, was agreed in principle, and he basically took the coward's way out. But now I guess Bakole is going to fight Zhilei Zhang. I think it's a much better fight than this because I thought Bakole was going to steamroll Kayabel and put him in a stretcher. But I think this one's going to be a much better fight. Zhang, I think, has a bit of a puncher's chance against Bakole, who's just on a roll right now. I think he's like 11 straight wins after he waxed Jared Anderson. So give me that fight, which I think would be 10 times better than Bakole and Kayabel, because I thought Bakole was going to break Kayabel in half to where we never see him again. But Kayabel basically showed us cowardice by backing out, probably saved his own life in the process. Good luck down the line, Kayabel, because you need it. Big fight this Saturday at part of the Riyadh season going on in Saudi Arabia. This is Gilbert Zurdo Ramirez, the fake Mexican, because he doesn't have the balls to fight Jai Opetaia. Fighting Chris Billiam-Smith, goes by initials of CBS, the name of his initials. The fake Brit, because he doesn't have the balls to fight Jai Opetaia. This is the battle for the guys who don't have the balls to fight Jai Opetaia. That's the only thing I want to remember this by. The two guys that don't have the balls to fight Jai Opetaia. I'm appalled how many people think Chris Billiam-Smith is going to win this. Because last time I saw him against Richard Riakpo, he crapped out. His luck out, Riakpo checked out. He's not beating Zurdo Ramirez. I don't care what people say. I mean, he's had the odds against him many, many times before. I will admit, he's had the odds against him many, many times before. A very, very blue-collar, grit and grind kind of fighter who basically gives honest effort. But I think Zurdo Ramirez is going to find a way to get a W in this one. It's not going to be one I think people are going to watch because both guys are going to try and muck it up in a gritty, ugly way. But I think Zurdo Ramirez is going to find a way to eke this one out, albeit barely. But I said, this fight will be remembered by the two guys who don't have the balls to fight Jai Opetaia. Neither guy does. Jai Opetaia actually offered these guys his own money. He was going to give him $250,000 cash, buy him a hotel, buy him an airplane to get him over there so he can beat them. Both guys turned him down because neither Zurdo Ramirez or Chris Billiam-Smith has the balls. That's what it's come down to with them two. That's going to remember that fight because everybody knows Jai Opetaia is the man in that division right now. Only guy I can see beating Jai Opetaia is if Alexander Usyk comes down to cruiserweight. And I'm not even sure about that either because Opetaia is trending high right now. Maybe that's why Zurdo Ramirez and Chris Billiam-Smith don't have the balls to fight him. I get it. And my last one, because I like to talk about historical sense. This one might not wow you, but it changed a lot of things for the sport of boxing over 4 decades. This took place in 1982. 1982 at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. This was the brutal, go at you face first, take all you can type of fight between Mancini and Deuk Koo-Kim. I don't like talking about sad events, but the impact of this needs to be brought up because it took place 42 years ago today. I mentioned before, Ray Mancini from Youngstown, Ohio, rugged brawler, stellar solid career. Had a tough loss to Alexis Arguello early on. Came back to knock out Arturo Frias and won round to win a belt. Got a solid win over Jose Luis Ramirez, a sound lightweight to fight. Fights Deuk Koo-Kim, who was a mandatory. Flying from Korea to the States. One of the stories here I did not know until I heard about this when the documentary was released, and I'll admit I didn't know this. Deuk Koo-Kim basically said, I'm going in for this fight just either I'm having a kill or be killed mentality. Basically, with the heat as high as it was in Las Vegas and the grueling pace it was, this fight went into the 14th round where Kim's face was just a grotesque mask, and Ray Mancini's face was a bloody mask. Mancini just basically gradually wore down Kim and stopped him in the 14th round. But that's not the issue. The beating was so bad, Deuk Koo-Kim went up in the hospital the next couple of days and basically just died due to excessive damage to, his brain and, neurological functions. Sad story all the way around. I bring this up because everyone keeps saying, why did fights go to 15 rounds to 12 rounds? This fight did it. A lot of things changed after this. This fight went from 15 rounds to 12 rounds. Now there's this is where I think they did away with same day weigh-ins, because I think that's what this was. The sad part about this is the referee of that fight, Richard Green, bought a hotel and hung himself. Unfortunately, it's, terrible situation. The mother of Deuk Koo-Kim hung herself when she found out the news that her son died. And it's something that the great Ray Mancini had to live with, is probably living with for as long as he lived. But I will give him credit for one thing on this. He's handled it as well as you can probably handle it. He gets picked on all the time in the streets in Youngstown, Ohio, by his own admission. What is it like to kill a guy? Let me remind you, the beauty and the ugly of combat sports is its brutality. It's beauty, it's ugly, a blessing and a curse. You follow combat sports, whether boxing, MMA, karate, whatever, that's what it is. I follow it, too. We like to see violence, but sometimes we want too much of this, and this is the end result, and that's something nobody thinks about much. This fight, as I said, went from 15 rounds to 12 rounds. I think there was a couple fights that went, some fights that went 15 rounds by admission, but never went. But there was a push for this to go from 15 to 12, and this started that trend. I think it used to be a 15 mandatory, but I think there's now the option for 12, and it's even the fights that were still scheduled for 15. There were some that went to 12. I think did away finally in 1990 after a lower level fight that involved Harold Brazier. I can't think of it off the minute, but it's hard for me to describe in words what happened on this day, because I don't like talking about sad stories much. But this brought up because a lot of things change in the sport. Rehydration clauses, weigh-in differences, whatever it was you wanted to say it. Of course, it didn't help that there was Richard Green, who was the referee of this fight, got criticized for letting this fight go on as long as it should, because Deuk Koo-Kim's face started swelling real early, real fast, because Ray Mancini who was known as a high volume puncher, started to really deliver a beating in this fight. And when the referee found out that Deuk Koo-Kim died of the injuries, he purchased a low level hotel out in Las Vegas, and just hung himself. This was confirmed by the legendary referee Richard Steele. The biggest misfortune out of all of this, because a lot of things change with this. I can point to a lot more of other things. I'm not going to elaborate because it's more small in detail. But maybe you could argue, as I said, combat sports is brutal in every single way, shape, and form. Yes, it is. Maybe you could argue this fight was probably the most brutal of them all, given what took place after the fight, how it just ricocheted all over the place. Of course, later on, Ray Mancini fought Livingstone Bramble. And of course, Bramble used this as a way to promote the fight, saying, "I'm fighting a natural killer." Ray Mancini just took it in stride. Of course, later on, they became friends, which is more of a, Bramble admitted it was more to try and prop up the fight and get in Mancini's head. You could argue Mancini was never the same again because he lost the 2 fights to Bramble. Had a title loss to Hector Camacho in 89. And that was basically all she wrote for him. But a lot of things changed on this night. And the impact and the ripple effect that it had throughout the sport at that time was basically, I can't describe it right now, or I could ever describe it, or anybody could. There's a documentary about this called The Proud Son on the ESPN app that chronicles Ray Mancini's story on this. It's something I would highly recommend and watch, because this is something Ray Mancini today still has to live through. And he's handled it as well as he could, because he even says it himself. People harass him on the streets of Youngstown, Ohio, asking him what it was like to kill someone. Man, mind you, Ray Mancini didn't just kill someone. This was a combat sport where this thing, happens. Why it happens, no one knows. Of course, there are rumors around that Kim basically had a weight cut to get to 135, which was the weight limit to Mancini's title. But that's why we rip people who don't make weight the right way in the sport, because with this, something like this happens, and you have to weight cut, a lot of things change, and things are never the same again. The family was broken. Ray Mancini for a while was broken. You could probably argue he was broken, but he's doing his best to hide it. I mean, he's going to be asked this question probably till he leaves this earth. I mean, about that fight with Deuk Koo-Kim. You're talking about one of the top 20 lightweights of all time, first battle Hall of Famer, which he rightfully is. But this is one of those things that he'll probably remember by for as long as people remember his boxing career. I mean, it was a hell of a fight. Sometimes when we watch, I say this respectively to all my fight followers. Sometimes when we watch these fights and we clamor for extreme violence, we're just people just beating the snot out of each other, where faces are busted up, noses are broken, jaws are broken, whatever. I'll admit I'm guilty of this myself. I think we need to start putting things in perspective when we think about this fight, because it's more than just a competitive sport. We talk about combat sports, potentially lives are at stake. That's why I get at people when they say some of the things they do on these platforms to try and put things in perspective a bit, simply because not only their lives online, but so too are their families probably watching, whether it be on television, in their locker rooms, or some cases at ringside. That's what we had here. I mean, the mother basically hung herself. The referee of this fight, Richard Green, hung himself, and Green was one of the better referees in the sport. But then again, let me just back up here with Richard Green for a second. He was also the referee that refereed the unfortunate fight between Larry Holmes and Muhammad Ali 2 years before this. So he's seen two brutalities in his face, and basically, after the second one, something must have happened in his head. I'm not going to, ask about it because it's ancient history now. But something must have happened, because he saw two brutalities literally happen in his face, to where he went to that hotel room in Las Vegas after Mancini-Kim and basically just hung himself. I think we need to have a little perspective when we, pick fights and talk about brutalities and stuff. I'll admit, I myself am as guilty as everybody else. But we need to start putting things more in perspective a little bit. I mean, we can talk about competitive. It's going to happen when you throw punches and whack someone in the face a few times. Cuts are going to happen, swelling is going to happen, bones are going to be busted. Fine, but we need maybe have a little bit of a different approach, because that's what happened 42 years ago. Everyone wanted to see a one-sided brutality. They got it. Look at the end results. Rest in peace, Deuk Koo-Kim. Rest in peace, Richard Green. And always condolences to the family, and hope Ray Mancini's doing well trying to handle this, because I don't want to be in his shoes. If I had a step in the ring and found out my opponent was that was my opponent, I don't know how I would act. Another perfect example of this is 1995, when Gabriel Ruelas fought Jimmy Garcia. Same thing there. Ruelas beat Garcia to basically gave Garcia a beating. Garcia wanted to be taken to the hospital. Days later, he was dead. Gabriel Ruelas, by his own admission, said, "I was never the same again." Lost his title to Azuma Nelson in the next fight. That's just the brutality of the sport. Of course, we all love action. I do too. I will not exempt myself. I won't. Maybe you have a different view of some of this as we move forward. And on that note, I will wrap up this edition of Sir Hunt on X. I hate when shows up on a sad story, but it's something that needed to be talked about. But that will wrap up this edition of Sir Hunt on X. 3 days off as I go back to my line of work. I will be back Monday to discuss of what took place in the big games tonight and the weekend. Of course, the big fight between Zurdo and Billiam-Smith, among many other things. Until then, have yourselves a wonderful Friday and weekend. Good luck to all your teams in the college and pros football landscapes this weekend. Lots of good games in both areas. I will see you guys Monday. Good night. Take care of yourselves, and God bless.